Welcome to ProChat Podcast. Have you ever felt like you're running on a hamster wheel? You solve a problem at work only for it to reappear in a new form a month later. You have the same argument with your partner over and over again. Why does this happen? What if the problem isn't us, but the way we're trained to see the problem? Today, we're diving into a book that offers a profound paradigm shift, The Art of Thinking in Systems by Steven Schuster. And to guide us, we have a special guest, a strategist who helps people see the invisible architecture of their lives. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
To start, could you distill for our audience the fundamental difference between the way most of us think, what the book calls linear thinking, and this powerful alternative, systems thinking?
Absolutely. The author uses a brilliant analogy. Imagine you throw a boomerang. It comes back to you. Linear thinking says, my throw may have come back. But if you throw the box the boomerang came in, it just drops to the ground. The magic isn't in the thrower. It's in the inherent structure of the boomerang itself.
So it's not the actor, but the stage design that dictates the outcome.
Precisely. We live with an illusion of control, believing our direct actions are solely responsible for results. When we fail, we blame ourselves. Systems thinking is the humbling and ultimately empowering realization that we must stop trying to control the actor and start redesigning the stage.
That's a fascinating reframe. So if we need to redesign the stage, we first need to understand its components. The book breaks a system down into 3 parts. Could you walk us through them?
Of course. Think of a simple coffee shop. First, you have the elements, the visible things. Baristas, customers, coffee beans, the espresso machine. They are the easiest parts to spot.
Okay, the tangible parts. What's next?
Second, the interconnections. These are the invisible flows and rules. The recipe for a latte, the way orders are communicated between the cashier and the barista, the staff schedule, the customer loyalty program. These are the relationships between the elements.
In the third part?
The purpose, or function. Is the coffee shop's goal to make the highest quality artisanal coffee, or is it to serve customers as fast as possible? The crucial insight here is that the system's observed behavior reveals its true purpose, not the mission statement on the wall.
The book makes a provocative claim here. It says that those 3 parts, changing the elements, is the least effective way to change a system. That feels counterintuitive. We're always told to hire the right people.
It does. But consider this. You can replace all the baristas, the elements, but if the workflow and recipes, the interconnections, stay the same, you'll get a very similar result. However, if you change an interconnection, for instance, by introducing a mobile ordering app, you fundamentally altered the entire system's behavior. The leverage isn't with the visible parts. It's in the invisible rules.
So it's about becoming a systems detective, asking not who is to blame, but what is the rule here that's driving this behavior?
Exactly. You start looking for the leverage points.
So we have this structure, but what makes it move? What creates the patterns we see? The book points to feedback loops as the engine of it all.
Yes. There are 2 main types. The first is a reinforcing loop, which is essentially a snowball effect. Think of a viral social media post. More likes and shares get it shown to more people, which generates even more likes and shares. It's a cycle of exponential growth. The rich getting richer is another classic example.
In the other type of loop?
That's a balancing loop. These are goal-seeking or stabilizing. A thermostat is the perfect analogy. The system's goal is 70 degrees. When it gets too hot, the air conditioning kicks on. A corrective action to bring the temperature back down to the goal. It maintains equilibrium.
This seems straightforward, but in real life, it's messy. The book points to a critical, often ignored factor: delays.
Delays are where everything gets complicated. The book gives a great retail example. A store sees a small uptick in sales for a shirt. They wait a week to see if it's a real trend. That's a perception delay. Then they decide to order more, but only a small batch at first, a response delay. Finally, the supplier takes 2 weeks to ship the order, a delivery delay.
And by the time the new shirts arrive,
The customer trend might have already passed, and now the store's overstocked. Our brains are wired for immediate feedback, but complex systems have time lags. This mismatch is the source of many of our worst decisions. We pull a lever, see nothing happen, and so we pull it harder, overcorrecting and destabilizing the entire system.
that's so true. It's the tyranny of the immediate. The wisdom then is in respecting the delay. You act, and then you wait.
You observe the system's slow, deliberate response before acting again. Patience becomes a strategic tool.
This brings us to the common traps that systems fall into. It's like the universe has a few favorite ways to make things go wrong. Can you share one that might feel familiar to our listeners?
A very common one is called drift to low performance. This is the subtle erosion of standards. Imagine you set a goal to wake up at 6 a.m. The first day you hit 6:15 and think, "That's close enough." The next day it's 6:20. Your performance is now being compared to yesterday's slightly worse performance, not the original absolute goal. Over time, your standard drifts down to 7 a.m., and you tell yourself you're still doing pretty well, given the circumstances.
I think many of us can relate to that. What's another common trap?
Another common trap is escalation. This is a reinforcing loop where competitors are trying to one-up each other. Think of two gas stations across the street lowering their prices to beat the other until neither is making a profit. Or consider political ad campaigns, where one candidate runs a negative ad, so the other responds with even a harsher one, and the cycle spirals downwards.
What's so powerful about seeing these as traps is that it removes the blame from the individual. It's not that the person is lazy or the politician is uniquely evil. They're caught in a structure that's bigger than them.
That is the moral dimension of systems thinking. When we don't see the system, we default to moral judgment of the people within it. We see a failing school and blame bad teachers. We see poverty and blame the lazy poor. Systems thinking forces us to a higher level of responsibility. It shifts the question from, "What's wrong with you?" to, "What's wrong with the system we are both in?"
And that second question is one you can actually solve together. Let's apply that idea to the most complex system of all, a human relationship. How can this way of thinking stop us from having the same fight over and over?
In a conflict, linear thinking looks for blame. You did X, which made me feel Y. Systems thinking looks for the reinforcing loop. For example, when I feel stressed about work, I become quiet. When you see me become quiet, you feel ignored and criticize me for being distant. When you criticize me, I feel attacked and withdraw even more. It's a vicious cycle, a doom loop that feeds on itself.
So no single person is the cause. Both are contributing to the pattern. How do you break it?
The solution isn't to decide who is right, it's for one person to unilaterally break the pattern. The person who withdraws can learn to say, "I'm feeling stressed and I'm starting to shut down. It's not about you. I just need 10 minutes and then we can talk." This one action starves the feedback loop of its fuel. You're changing an interconnection, the flow of information, to create a different outcome.
You're fixing the system, not just blaming the person. This has been an incredible reframing of how the world works. If a listener wants to start applying this today, what is the single most important mental shift they need to make?
It's the shift from asking who's to blame to what's the system. Look past the single event to see the pattern of behavior over time. Then, look beneath that pattern to find the underlying structure that's driving it. The most effective place to intervene is almost never where you think it is.
Can you give us one final powerful example of this in action?
The book concludes with a brilliant one from healthcare. For decades, when a medical error occurred, the system blamed and punished the individual doctor or nurse, but errors kept happening. The paradigm shift came when they started looking at the system itself, confusing medication labels, poor communication protocols, overworked staff. By fixing the system, creating checklists, redesigning labels, implementing better handoffs, they made it harder for good people to make mistakes. They didn't fix the people. They fixed the world the people were working in.
That is truly profound. It's about creating systems that set people up for success. Thank you so much for this illuminating conversation. You've given us a new lens to see the world.
The pleasure was all mine.
For our listeners, the book is The Art of Thinking and Systems by Steven Schuster. It doesn't just give you answers, it gives you a better way to ask questions. It turns us from helpless victims of circumstances into architects who can consciously design better systems and better lives. Thanks for tuning in to ProChat Podcast.